Hey everybody, and welcome to another APA tutorial. In this one, we're going to be talking about how to do a scatter plot in Google Sheets. And of course, there's probably a ton of videos about how to do scatter plots in Google Sheets, right? But you're watching this one because you want to make sure that it is an APA style, according to the rules set forth in the APA manual on how to make a scatter plot look like it's supposed to be in an APA manuscript, and then, eventually in a paper of some kind, whether it's for a class, for a manuscript submitted to a journal, whatever. You're going to do an APA style scatter plot. All right, so let's go ahead and make an APA style scatter plot. Before I started recording, I made this set of data. We only have 5 people in a class, right? And here are their GPAs, and here are their attendance proportions aggregated from all of their classes. I literally made up this data. It looks as though it's a strong correlation because of how I made it, but just to say, it's probably it's probably a significant 5. I don't know. With 5 students, probably not, but still. Let's go ahead and make a scatter plot with these 2 variables. We've got GPA, right? 2.5, 3.65, 4, 0.00, 1.69, and 2.1. I didn't make sure that I didn't use these buttons over here. And then their attendance proportion, as I said, as a function of attendance across all of their classes, not just a single class, but all of their classes. And so this 2.5 person attended about 2/3 of their classes. 3.65 attended about 85% of their classes. 95 for the 4. Goody two shoes over here. 1.69, yikes, attended about half their classes, and then the 2.1 attended about 3/4 of their classes. So I wanted to change it up just a little bit. But in any case, let's go ahead and make a scatter plot. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of those, and then I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go to Chart, and it already knows that I should do a scatter plot. Look at that. Oh, Google, you are amazing. Okay, I love it. All right, so let's go ahead and put it right here. And so it put GPA on the x-axis and it put attendance on the y-axis. Perfect. Let's make this look APA style because there are some elements here that we do not like. So setup, we've got the scatter chart, scatter plot, so it's so on and so forth. And then it recognizes the x-axis can be GPA, and it recognizes the attendance as the y-axis. I can switch them if I really wanted to, but I don't want to do that because switching rows and columns makes them individual dots on some kind of attendance proportion, and that's not great. Now, if you wanted to do add error bars to each of these individual dots, you'd have to do it like that. And there is a video on how to do that. Basically, you have to set up a correlation matrix just to be able to add individual error bars to that. We're not going to do error bars in this one because often you do not see error bars for each individual. We represent precision / predictive power through the regression line, which we'll talk about as we go through our customization. Row 2 as headers, okay? GPA and attendance proportion. Use column B as labels. Well, we don't really have labels because these are individual points, but this is the label here. And as you can see, it's putting it on there's a value over here, I hope we can change that. But in any case, this is my GPA, and it plotted 2.0, 2.5, 3.0. Because this is a scatter plot, we will likely be able to change this scale and make sure our minimum is 0, just like our attendance minimum is 0. So let's go through customize here. So we've got all of the regular customize options, but of course things are changed within. So let's go ahead to chart style. I want to make sure all of my fonts are Arial, and they are. That's what Google defaults to, Arial, that lovely free one. And the reason why is because Arial is a sans serif font, and it's easy to read from a distance. All the letters are fairly distinct from one another, so on and so forth. Okay. I don't want a border around it. I want that to be none, because if I were to copy and paste this into a Word document, I don't want a box around it. I don't want a different color box around my graph. I just want it to blend into the white of the word processing paper, right? So there you go. So we're going to go ahead and close chart style here, and we're going to go to chart and axis titles. APA charts, figures, graphs, etc. do not have titles. So I'm going to click on this 3 times, triple click, and I'm going to delete that, and it's going to get rid of it. Huzzah. I don't need it. Get rid of it. Okay. We don't need a subtitle either. Horizontal axis title. That's what I want to do next. GPA, it was taken from here, which is fine. That's great. I love it. Arial, I'm going to make this that color, or that size, 14. Readable from a distance. It's not too small. It's also not too big. It looks big on your screen right now because I have sheets zoomed in a little bit. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead to vertical axis, and it grabbed attendance proportion, and that's fine. I don't need to change that, but I do want to change my font size to 14, and you can put in any font size in here that you want. Okay. Oh, no, you can't. You have to choose for some reason. I thought I saw somebody do that in a video. Maybe I was seeing something, but so I guess you do have to choose even though you get to its cursor. I don't get it. I don't get it. All right. So those are my titles. We'll go ahead and leave those. I'm going to come back to series because I do that last in all of these videos. Let's go to legend. Okay. There is no legend. Look at that. We can skip it. Horizontal axis. That's these values right here. Okay. So we've got Arial. I want to go ahead and change my font size to 14. Okay. And we can change the text color. We can reverse our order. Here's what I need though. I need my minimum value and I need my maximum value. So 0 is my minimum. And 4.00 is my maximum. Of course, this one's over here because I made it 4. That's me. I did that one. I made it hard on myself. Allow bounds to hide data? No. So we're going to uncheck that. So 4 comes off just a little bit at the edge of the graph, so we get the full circle. Okay, scale factor is all of these. If I change this from default, it's going to make this, 0.04. If I change this, that, it'll make it 40. It doesn't really matter because nothing actually changes with my values, okay? And then I could do, I can slant the labels. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like, maybe in grid lines and ticks, I can add back my decimals. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I am more concerned with this being the full GPA scale than I am with it showing 0.00, 1.00, 2.00, all of that. I am okay with that. So let's go ahead and leave that like that for horizontal axis. We're going to do the same for vertical axis. We're going to make this 14-point font. And I've got the axis line showing already, but apparently, oh, you know why? That's what's going to happen because I'm going to remove the grid lines. I'm going to remove these and I'm going to remove these. But with this selected, it will stay. That black one will stay there while the other ones disappear. We'll get to that one in just a second. Minimum and maximum value. I'm not going to change a damn thing actually because 0 to 1 is the proportion of attendance. Perfect attendance, perfect non-attendance, perfect truancy. That's what I want to say. Then we don't need to change anything. I mean, if I specified this, I can do 0, 1. I want to make sure that it gives me the, so I'm not going to change it. Okay. So let's go ahead and close that. And now let's get grid lines and ticks going. So let's do vertical axis. Step. It's doing every 0.25. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave that. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave that. But I am going to uncheck major grid lines. That's going to get rid of all of the horizontal lines on the graph. That's not great. I don't like that because it gets rid of my y-axis or my x-axis, excuse me. We'll get to that in just a second. But I want to go ahead and get here, right? I want to get my major ticks. And I don't like a cross, but I do like an outside. And I am going to change this to 6 pixels to make it as small as possible. You can change the line thickness and color. That's fine too. So let's go ahead to the horizontal axis. I don't want grid lines. I don't want them. But I do want major ticks. And that brings back the x-axis. I love it. Perfect. Huzzah. Let's go ahead and you can do cross for this one. I typically leave cross for these because it's easier to read. So it's 1 and then it goes up. For some reason, I just don't like it on that. I'm going to go ahead and leave this. I mean, APA style, this is just an aesthetic choice. So you don't have to do that. But so we're going to go ahead and leave that. We're going to leave it as cross and we're going to leave everything else as what it is by default. Okay, so here we go. Here are my circles, right? Let's go ahead to series now and go ahead and make some changes. These circles are a little too big for my taste. Let's go ahead and make them 2 pixels. It does give the download, publish, all of this drop down kind of in the way. It seems like those are 2 pixels wide as well. I love it. All right. So, and we can change the color if we wanted to. We can make them nice, bright and red, all of that. Fill opacity. What do you want them to be stars? Oh, isn't that special? You want them to be squares, all of these kinds of things. Circles by default, of course. And then the axis it uses is the left axis. But then, of course, if you wanted to, you can add a right axis. And then the last but not least is, you could add error bars to each individual ones, but they'd have to be the same value. And many times these individual points do not have the same value error bars. I know from experience having done a big ass study with a lot of problems, looking at scatter plots and trend lines and things like that. Oh boy. Speaking of trend lines, let's go ahead and add a trend line in. Okay. So here's my trend line and it is typically the same color as the choice that I make. So if I go up here and I change this back to blue, it will change it back to blue. So look at that. Let's go ahead and make it red just so it pops a little bit for the viewers here. Okay. So we can have our type of line. So you can have a linear, which is by default, but then you can make it exponential and that makes a curved line, polynomial, which makes it another curved line. You can barely see that curve though. You can make it logarithmic, which looks like that, a power series, which is kind of logarithmic, and then a moving average, which doesn't look good for this one at all. Of course, we're looking at a linear because we're trying to attempt to change this or to see whether or not we have a linear relationship between these two variables, GPA and attendance, right? By default, line opacity is 40%, but you can make that any value between 0 and 100. The higher the number, the less translucent or transparent it is, right? The higher the number, the more opaque it is, which is harder to see through, right? So 100% would be the same hue and value as the dots. You can change the thickness of the line between 1 pixel, 2 pixel, 4 pixels, and 8 pixels. 8 pixels is disgusting. There's 4, there's 2, and then there's 1. Just really depends on your idea here, right? So we can add a label to it. We can use the equation. So this is the actual equation of the line. It adds a legend now. Or you can show R squared. R squared is 0.831, which means that our correlation is about 0.9. Look at that. Wowzer. I mean, I did that on purpose, right? 0.9. Of course, this is 0.9. Look at how far, look at how close these dots are to this trend line. Look at that. I typically don't show the equation, but you can also customize it. And you can say the dots are the data points, and then the line is the trend line. Honestly, you don't really need to do that for an APA style graph because most people honestly recognize that whatever reader they are, if they're your teacher, if they're your classmate, if they're your editor or reviewer, they're going to know that, oh yeah, no, that's the trend line for this scatter plot. You can't, unfortunately, show R squared without showing the label, which is a bit of a bummer. So that's a limitation there. You can't just put R, although you could like put a text box on here and show what R squared is, 0.83 or whatever it was. And you can do it that way, but you have to have one of these labels for R squared, right? We can do trend, we can just say trend line and see, yeah. And then it puts trend line and then it puts R square in the legend, right? And then you can go up to, down to legend here and mess with that and its positioning and all of that stuff. All right, did I get everything? I think I did. Look at that. Look at our attendance. Yeah, the more you attend class, the higher GPA that you have. Look at that. Oh my gosh. It's like I set it up on purpose. So fun. And that is how you make an APA-style scatter plot in Google Sheets. If you have any comments, suggestions, feedback, or questions, please leave those in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.